Imagine an entire city built from scratch. Brand new buildings, wide streets, hotels, shopping malls, universities, convention centers. Everything ready, everything impeccable. Except for one detail. No one wants to live there. That's right. Empty shopping malls, universities without students, new apartments but completely abandoned. A city with first-world infrastructure that today looks like a post-apocalyptic movie set. And the most ironic thing is that it was all planned, built with public money, supported by a German giant and filled with promises about the future. But instead of progress, it became a symbol of waste. What place is this? What went wrong? Why didn't anyone want to live there? You'll find out all this and more right now. In today's Bello Mundo, we're heading to Mexico to show you behind the scenes of one of the biggest urban failures, a place that was born to be the future and turned into just another expensive mistake in the middle of nowhere. Number 1. Location and general information. Our journey today begins in one of those places that almost no one can point out on a map. San Jose, Chiapa, a small rural municipality hidden in the interior of the state of Puebla, Mexico. It is less than an hour from the state capital, but it seems to be decades away. Simple roads, open landscapes, few buildings, and a silence that dominates everything. Until 2012, it was just another forgotten spot, one of those places that even the neighbors pass by without noticing. Then came the announcement that no one expected. Audi, one of the world's largest luxury car manufacturers, chose this isolated spot to build its new factory on the American continent. No capital, no established industrial hub. The decision fell on cheap land in an area practically frozen in time, and this sparked an opportunity alert within the state government. If a German giant was willing to invest heavily there, promising thousands of jobs, why not transform the region into something much bigger? Instead of a simple neighborhood or industrial district, a bold idea emerged to build an entire city from scratch. A planned, modern city with everything working from day one: housing, schools, hospitals, commerce, leisure, transportation, all integrated. Thus was born the Ciudad Modelo proposal, an ambitious project designed to house not only Audi employees and their families, but also to attract companies, students, service providers, and merchants. The promise was a complete urban ecosystem with universities, a convention center, green areas, public transportation, bike paths, and even a shopping mall. Everything working like a well-oiled machine. The official discourse spoke of a smart city with controlled growth and quality of life. Some politicians said that in a few years it would be the second largest city in the state, second only to the capital, Puebla. On paper, it seemed to make sense. Access to highways was easy, logistics favored production, and the region already had a tradition in the automotive sector. Volkswagen itself has been operating in Puebla since the 60s. The plan was divided into stages. First would come the houses, schools, and basic services. Then would come sustainable neighborhoods, efficient public transportation, and the bold goal of making 70% of the population not need a car for their daily lives. The idea was simple and ambitious: to live, work, study, and enjoy life in the same place, with safety, convenience, and state-of-the-art infrastructure. In speeches, it sounded great. It sounded modern, innovative, even visionary. But, as we will see, what looked perfect on paper began to unravel. Number 2. The beginning of the end. With the Audi factory getting off the ground, it was time to build what would be, in the government's words, the city of the future. The famous Ciudad Modelo, which until then was just a well-made model and a speech full of promises, began to take shape, and at a rapid pace. Between 2014 and 2015, the construction work gained momentum with heavy mobilization by the Puebla state government. New access roads, water and sewage networks, electricity, fiber optic internet, and public lighting were installed. This basic infrastructure alone cost more than 1.5 billion Mexican pesos, equivalent to almost $87 million in public money. And at first glance, everything seemed to be going well. Hundreds of houses and apartments were built, along with a modern convention center, a shopping mall, tree-lined squares, a sports park, and even an artificial lake, the kind designed more for visual appeal than for actual use. In addition, essential public buildings were constructed. An IMSS clinic was built, part of the Mexican Social Security Institute, something similar to a combination of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security in the United States, providing health care and retirement benefits to those in the formal labor market. A medical center, public elementary and high schools, and 2 university campuses were also inaugurated. One of them belonged to BUOP, the Autonomous University of Puebla, the state's leading public institution. The other was a bilingual technological university focused on the industrial sector, designed specifically to train local workers for the Audi ecosystem. To complete the package, a new hotel, bus terminal, municipal market, and wide avenues were added, all with that organized, planned city feel, with everything in its place. The idea was to create a space where it would be possible to live, study, and work, all without leaving the area. Even the private sector jumped on board. The AISA Group, a Mexican real estate developer, was responsible for part of the housing. They built blocks with white facades, balconies, and that typical look of a newly delivered condominium, designed especially to attract future Audi employees and their families. And as the icing on the cake came the launch of the FINSA2 Industrial Park, an 86-hectare plot of land reserved exclusively for suppliers to the automaker. The proposal was to form a complete production chain around the factory, with the potential to generate up to 20,000 direct and indirect jobs. Everything was designed to transform the region into a major industrial hub. In 2016, the Audi factory was officially inaugurated, and on paper, Ciudad Modelo was ready. Impeccable streets, new buildings, active public services, everything in tip-top shape. To outsiders, it looked like the beginning of a success story, and it was, to a certain extent. But when everything was ready, the most basic thing was missing: people. The houses remained empty. The streets were silent. The city, which had everything going for it, simply did not happen. And that is where the other side of the story begins. Number 3. Good, but not so good. It didn't take long for the charm to turn to frustration. As soon as the first structures were completed, problems began to appear, and it became clear that the model city was far from functional. The first obstacle was the price of housing. Houses and apartments were launched at high prices, almost luxury standard, completely out of reach for most Audi workers. In neighboring cities, there were properties up to 18% cheaper, just 10 minutes from the factory, with much better infrastructure around them. Given this, many workers did not even consider moving there, and the high price was not the only obstacle. The location was also a factor. Ciudad Modelo was built practically in the middle of nowhere. The journey to the capital, Puebla, took almost 2 hours by car, including expensive tolls along the way. Between gas, lost time, and the high cost of living there seemed more like a nuisance than a benefit. The basic infrastructure also left much to be desired. Public transportation existed, but there was only one bus per hour. Local commerce was non-existent. There was no bakery, pharmacy, or even a grocery store. Residents reported that they had to drive to another city just to buy bread or medicine. In terms of healthcare, the situation was precarious. The local clinic did not offer emergency care and was not open 24 hours a day. With no ambulance available, any emergency required travel to another municipality, which, in practice, could take more than an hour to reach a hospital. Trading established cities for an unfinished project seemed too risky. In other words, the city wasn't that well planned, was it? When the plan began to fall apart, Audi tried to take action. In 2021, the automaker itself sent an internal memo suggesting that its employees consider moving to San Jose, Chiapa. The tone was friendly, with arguments such as better quality of life, less commuting, and more convenience. But the effect was the opposite. Many people saw it as disguised pressure, and the reaction was swift and negative. In internal groups and on social media, workers were direct. They were not willing to live in an isolated city with no infrastructure and no life. Some described the place as beautiful on the outside but soulless. Others were even more candid. No one wanted to raise their children in a place that looked like an abandoned set. The impasse became so visible that even the governor at the time, Miguel Barbosa, ended up speaking out. He said it would be good to see the city finally occupied, but acknowledged that you couldn't force anyone to live where they didn't want to. And so the project remained standing, but empty. Houses built, street lights on, windows closed. A city made for many but inhabited by almost no one. In theory, it seemed like an urban revolution. In practice, it was just a bunch of pretty buildings in the middle of nowhere. So much so that many people began to refer to the place as a fraccionamiento, a common term in Mexico to describe isolated condominiums, disconnected from the real city. Ciudad Modelo, which was designed to be a lively urban center, looked more like a cemetery. But do you think the city was the only failure? Of course not. Number 4. The collection of failures. Remember FINS, a 2 industrial park. That huge plot of land that was supposed to be next to Ciudad Modelo, tailor-made to attract Audi suppliers, generate thousands of jobs, and consolidate a modern integrated automotive hub. Well, that's right. That was another failed project. In theory, the idea seemed perfect. Strategic location, less than 5 minutes from the Audi factory, with all the infrastructure in place, easy access by highway, and plenty of space to house dozens of companies. But in practice, the reality was quite different. 2 years after the Audi plant opened, the industrial park was abandoned. The 86-hectare site remained paved, fenced, and lit by streetlights, but without a single major supplier. Not one. Companies preferred to continue operating closer to the capital, Puebla, or move to other states with better urban infrastructure and more viable costs. That concentration of warehouses, machines, trucks, and workers simply did not happen. In 2019, the local press described it as an industrial desert. The images showed a silent field with "for sale" and "for rent" signs and weeds growing on the edges of the streets. The much-discussed goal of 20,000 jobs remained just talk. Today, only a few small businesses occupy the space, and with so little activity that it barely impacts the region's economy. This failure was not limited to the walls of the park. Without suppliers nearby, Audi's own factory began to feel the effects. Logistics became more expensive and time-consuming. With parts and supplies coming from far away, Costs rose, deadlines tightened, and the entire ecosystem designed to be agile and efficient turned into a poorly assembled puzzle. In the end, what was supposed to be the city's engine became just another empty lot. An industrial park without industries, stuck in a city without residents. But you know what was even funnier? Number 5. Expectation versus reality. While all this was happening, institutional marketing continued to play make-believe. On the official websites of the Puebla government, the model city was still described as a smart city designed to generate business, growth, and quality of life. Promotional videos showed wide streets, modern buildings, slow-motion smiles, and motivational phrases. Everything seemed to be working. Everything seemed alive. But one only had to visit the site to see the opposite. According to a 2023 report, less than 1% of the homes built were ever occupied. Tens of thousands of people should have been there. But what you see are locked houses, more than 700 abandoned, and many already showing signs of deterioration. The shopping mall, which was supposed to be a center for shopping and leisure, has very few stores open. The schools and universities are operating, but at well below capacity, serving residents from outside the area or functioning more as extension centers. The convention center, one of the jewels of the project, rarely hosts events, and the hotel next to the factory is almost always empty, hosting the occasional Audi employee on a technical visit. None of them live there. With so much space ready and so few people, it didn't take long for the city to earn a bitter nickname, Ghost Town. And it's hard to disagree. Just walk around outside business hours to understand. Everything is clean, everything is new, and everything is empty. A city that was ready but never got started. Number 6. The last one turns off the lights. Today, more than 7 years after its inauguration, the model city of San Jose, Chiapa is still there. Standing, paved, lit, but empty. Anyone walking through its streets feels the strangeness in the air. Streetlights illuminate avenues without cars, squares without children, brand new buildings with windows always closed. Part of the infrastructure is already showing signs of neglect. Tall weeds, worn signs, rusting equipment left unused. And it's not the first failure of its kind in Mexico. Projects such as the sustainable rural cities of Chiapas, in the south of the country, also ended in abandonment, tall weeds and broken doors, brand new houses without water, without electricity, without residents. History repeats itself. Governments trying to create cities from scratch, but forgetting that a city is not born from cement. Even so, the Puebla government is trying to give the model city a new direction. In 2024, the governor-elect announced a conversion plan to transform the site into a technology capital, attracting startups, universities, and factories in the innovation sector. The proposal includes heavy investment, public-private partnerships, and even a new electrical substation. It sounds promising, but the local population has heard too many promises. Bringing life back there will require much more than money. It will take convincing real people to bet again on a project that was born discredited. Perhaps, who knows, the model city still has a second chance. Maybe the laboratories and incubators of the future will take the place of empty warehouses. But for now, it remains there, a ghost town. So, would you live in a place like this, or would you steer clear of a project that was too modern to work? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories from this Bello Mundo. Thanks so much for the company. See you at the next destination.